Kweku,
I don't know where that came from.
Kweku, the president has said that he prefers a boisterous and even reckless media to a sparring one. There is a lot of, criticism that is particularly within the NPP and the government, that says we are projecting the media as if it is infallible, it doesn't make mistakes, and it should not be criticized. Is that what's going on?
Well. I'll be dishonest if I say I haven't read some ruling party communicators, especially on social media, making allusions to that point. But it's not peculiar to the ruling party communicators. There are communicators on the other side who attack us almost every day for our views. It's a certain subculture that is out there.
Sometimes even before you speak.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm not about to ascribe it to just a particular political thing. It's a culture that we
must. Let me give you an
do.
example. When we put up the topics for today, if you go down to, I had the opportunity to read a few messages. You see that NDC people, very clearly NDC people, will say, for example, the CJ topic, that you are setting it up to come and do a PR for the CJ.
Yes.
Then you hear the NPP people,
you're right.
Then they come and say, oh, you are trying to do, tarnish the image of the CJ.
You are right.
And you ask, so what's going on?
Yes, and it's consistent. It cuts across the political divide.
So my decision has often been, just ignore.
Yes, live with it.
If I'm not blocking you, I'll ignore you.
Yes, we just have to learn to live with it, But I do not want, and I'm not saying it's irrelevant or immaterial, but I'm not going to focus on the president relative to this matter.
Okay.
That's not what I'm going to do. I'm not saying it's irrelevant or it's immaterial. Anybody who wants to do that, make deductions, analysis relative to what the president should do or not do is entitled to do that. But that's not what I'm going to do now. See, this gentleman, the member of parliament, yes, I know, and I'm very careful these days when I'm discussing him, only because I don't want people to think it's a personal matter. Being in court with him, and also the linkage with Tiger Eye and all those things. If I'm not careful, people will think, oh, this Kweku Baako is just taking an advantage of a situation and do personal attacks. People can think so. But you see, I saw something, was it on Joy or something? He's leading a delegation to WA on this military brutality and things in his capacity as chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee. Good job. That's what Parliament should do, a committee of Parliament should do, and chairman of such a committee, fine. That's a good picture. The military have taken action, Parliament want to understand all that. But you see, it's the same person. Now we are discussing within the context of something that borders of threat, and of security of a person, a journalist, and all that. It's so contradictory. Personally, find it difficult, and it would have been useful in the enlightened self-interest of the member of parliament under reference here to try very hard and temper down, move in a direction that fits the position he holds as chairperson of Defense and Interior Committee. This is just an advice. But let's come to the core issues. See, what Ashibe made references, to past events and things. I think Samson also did. This Gan and Ewe thing, you remember, I think it was in the course of the registration for 2012 elections and things. What happened? Why have we created room for impunity to continue? First of all, I think it was incompetent prosecution that got him free. And you will believe that, you will know that. We began first with some huge charges, treason, genocide. All those things were clearly out of the way. And we toyed around it, we did a lot of propaganda and politics with it across the divide. And eventually we went and charged him with, what was it?
The misdemeanor offenses say
yes.
Conduct.
You say accused was provocation of rout contrary to section 200 and section 190, and then offensive conduct contrary to section 207 of Act. We move from these huge charges to this one. And then at the end of the day, his lawyers were more effective than the prosecution, so that they filed for case of submission of no case. And the judge proceeded, analyzed it, gave some historical examples, and said, look here, I'm unable to ask the accused to open his defense, so I give him to proceed. And he went off the hook. The parliamentary one, the parliament is cheap, parliament is useless. He was dragged before the Privileges Committee. I think I may alluded to it. The truth of the matter is that the committee found him guilty and recommended either suspension or reprimand. And this was, I think, in July 2018. The report was then sent to Parliament February 2019. I think, to be precise, February 14th. Now, just check the Hansard. Unfortunately, I couldn't locate my copy. But if you read the newspaper reports on what happened that day, there was total chaos. It became political in terms of the divide. And then the speaker eventually, in fact, the majority side even rejected the report. They voted to reject it. And then subsequently, the speaker suspended the proceedings. They went and did some leadership negotiations and came back and adopted the report. But they decided to choose the second option, reprimand, go and sin no more. If you remember, that was the speaker's conclusion thing. If you also look at that, yes, though something happened, I believe it was not sufficient deterrence for future misconduct. And here, that is why we are here today. I've been wondering, and maybe you can help me. Now I see a multiplicity of actions or initiatives. It appears Parliament Privileges Committee has been triggered. NMC, I didn't even know that. The NMC has been triggered. I heard it here. Which one? The CID has been triggered. And there's a fourth one. Shraj. No, the Shraj. I'm looking at the local jurisdiction. Yeah. See, some of these entities, a group like Shraj, I believe, if a case goes to court, they won't deal with it. Of course, no case is in court yet, but the police criminal investigations, if it proceeds to court, it will create a little challenge for Shraj. I don't know about the NMC. NMC, possibly that too. If the case goes to court, they will not have jurisdiction to deal with the thing. Now we have 4 local entities to deal with this matter. I'm beginning to think that we should stay focused. It's true. Maybe somebody will say none of them, they are not mutual.
But NMC, a matter can be in court and NMC can still deal with it.
Okay, that's why I say I'm not too sure about the NMC.
Courts, I've tried it, okay. And the court have ruled recently.
I will concede
that they can do their work.
I have no difficulty. I wasn't sure, so I was asking to be helped.
I actually tried it, and I insisted that they shouldn't be doing whilst the court is doing, and the court said no.
Interesting. That's because previously, I've been in a similar situation where NMC declined
it's
to
almost
handle
a standard rule, but
because we had gone to court.
But Justice Boafo,
so it's changed.
Yeah.
It means the situation has changed. Thanks for that.
That's a high court, so any other high court can decide differently.
No, but I'm saying those pursuing justice perhaps should be focused a bit and see how to deal with it from a very focal point. The multiplicity could create all sorts of challenges. It's just an advice I'm giving for those who, and of course we are, GJ, we are all involved. This is a matter that concerns all journalists, not just Erastus. But you see, a lawmaker, this journalist's testimony was given at a committee of inquiry under oath. I don't see the difficulty you should have with that. And you can advise me legally, if there's an option, why don't you take that option? It is not just the media reports that he filed. Okay? Post that, he had appeared before a committee of inquiry. And under oath had given some evidence. Now the chairman of the committee is even saying It had value.
Yes.
What he brought had value. But you can say that, look, you don't think it has any value. And as a lawmaker, what do? Do you issue threats? No. Okay, even any ordinary citizen has no right to issue threats. How much more a lawmaker?
So he actually spoke about listening to him at the committee.
Yes.
And the things he was saying.
Exactly.
And he describes them in, to be honest,
exactly.
ways.
Yes, and that is why I'm saying, why? Why should that be a problem? He's gone to a committee of inquiry set up by the government of which you are a member. And he's providing some facts and details. You may agree or may not. But this is before a committee of inquiry. Why should that be a problem for any lawmaker? If it was those he did outside and you have a problem, we know constitutionally, rejoinder, you complain before media commission, or if there's something bordering on civil libel, you know where to go. Is that not so?
He's not saying anything has been done to him personally.
I hear you.
Right. He says that, his reportage led to what was going on.
Media commission if you have a problem with the reportage, the one before the testimony. Okay? So there is something basic. Look, it's not sustainable. You can't mount a defense for the member of parliament in context of this case. At the international side, it takes away something from Ghana. All the complaints and petitions to international bodies, do you understand? The U.S. through the U.S. embassy, and the U.S. I know already they have a monitor on him.
People have said,
you see,
including members of parliament, have said that if you want to judge him, don't separate him from his government, because this is him. It's not different from him, and yet he's been sort of rewarded with chairman position of important committees in parliament. Yes, and they say he's not deserving. He's never been deserving.
I'll be dishonest if I say I was excited about the chairmanship of a defense and interior commission, even before this incident. Yeah. I was thinking, and you see, it's not personal. I know people will say, there he goes, predictably. But it's not personal. A certain character trait alone should have made his colleagues in parliament realize that this is not the appropriate committee to send him. And that's why I began by telling you, he's in war or went to war to deal with a certain challenge that borders on security and human rights of people. Okay. People's human rights have been violated. But the same gentleman is issuing threats. It's difficult to reconcile, but the point really is that the international one also affects us, our image. And as the GJA president said, it's part and parcel of the reasons why we are losing our status relative to the ranking of press freedom and all those things. Something ought to be done. The party should wake up, because the collateral damage is obvious.
Okay, so Martin, what do you have to say? Look, and I look at what he has done and he continues to do, and somehow he has people who support him and will always defend him. Very long ago, I sat on this studio because once in a while he used to come on Newsfile, and I made my own proclamation many years ago that the very day he was empaneled, because I don't empanel who comes here. The very day he's empaneled to be on this show, I'm out. So that was my decision, because I think there are things we need to project to people, and there are things we cannot be projecting to people. We have a responsibility. He's continued for a very long time. We just made reference to, Kweku spoke about the treason charges that were, I think later he was giving very misdemeanor charges.
Yes.
And then he was rather cautioned on them to be of good behavior on them.
Yes, the judgment. This is
was he discharged?
The judge said, we can't read all, of course. All right. But the last, it says from the above analysis, after he had alluded to so many.
So this was submission of no case?
Yes, it's a submission of no case.
Okay.
And the judge said from the above analysis above, I'm unable to order the accused to open his defense. The instant case is a classic example of cases that are not supposed to cross the prosecution boundary into the territory or domain of the defense after the close of the prosecution's case, due to the failure of the prosecution to lead evidence to prove the essential elements of the offenses. And like Pontius Pilate said in Matthew so and so and so, I find no basis for a charge against this man. I wash my hands off him. So I wash my hands off the accused. The accused person's submission of no case succeeds. And he is therefore acquitted and discharged.
And then you refer to the recent contempt, the recent contempt issues. Okay. So he's known, and this is who he is. And yet he goes there, and what was he done? He was cautioned and discharged. Any poor Ghanaian ordinary person who had come close to any of those things, those things that were said about the judge, you can be assured that the person would have gone in for the full time. So are we part of who he is?
Definitely. Definitely, without any equivocation. Yes, and so it tells you that as a society, so I repeat what Ken Ashigbe said, that basically this time we have to make sure that we sustain the pressure. You see, each time people will rail, and then in no time we forget and then go to join other causes. Then he gets the opportunity to be slapped on the wrist, like his recent contempt matter, after saying those very disparaging things about 2 judges at a go. Sometimes it's made to appear he was referring to 1 judge. But actually, when you follow the tape, he insulted 2 judges at a go, and he got a slap on the wrist. You see, I was surprised. I thought at least, and you know that case, from what we are hearing, haven't been dealt with so quietly. No, it should have been given all the scrutiny that it deserves. At least he should have, suffered more than he has. Here we are. You see, he's gone on to create another problem. So this time, I think what we have to do, as I said, I support what Ken Ashigbe said. It's about citizens sustaining the pressure. Let's sustain the pressure that we want justice this time to the fullest, okay, to the maximum. Because he can't continue to take us for a ride and do all these things as if there are no laws. It's just one too many. One too many. I mean, one would have expected that when he did those his genocide tirade, I mean, at least I call it so because initially that's how it was tagged. When he said one ethnic group should attack the other. Thought he would have learned his lessons. He didn't. From there, he went to Ahmed Swale. You saw what happened. And then now, from Ahmed Swale to the judges.
Yeah, you haven't followed him.
More. I mean, there are other ones. Yes, I'm looking at the ones that have achieved, caught so much public attention.
Okay.
Yes, the ones that have caught so much public attention. Yeah, day in, day out, you see videos where he says so many things. Sometimes, truth of the matter is that sometimes he's able to hold his own party accountable to an extent that nobody does. So you see that because of that, he has some followership, okay? Yes, but if you look at the negatives, they are outweighing the positives by far, by a very huge margin. So
you have convicted him. It's left with sentence.
Did I hear that?
Well, he's going before the privileges committee, right? So this time, we expect that, look, the MPs shouldn't do that political football they did the last time, okay? They should all stand.
Fenyomakin says he's ready to, sort of apologize and let things lie quiet, sort of.
No, not this time, not this time. I think the days of the apology, yes, if you see, an apology is still due the Ghanaian people after everything. But he must suffer something more than an apology.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Without doubt.
But what do you say about the duty bearers too? I think, is it Bento who referred to that, NMC, NCA?
Yes.
Not too long ago, the NCA shut down Radio Tongo, right?
Yeah.
Because of content, the things that were said on the radio station. They shut them down because they have the power to do so. So what do you say about what goes on? Because there are the platforms he sits on almost all the time. You can be guaranteed that the language is not permissible language, and the conduct is insightful. There's everything wrong with it, and yet nothing.
So they say what is...
Not a caution, I think.
They say what is sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander, right? I think then this time we should apply the same because, you know, it's just been one too many. And also this brings to light, it appears we have to do something about our law. You know, incitement to violence as part of hate speech. It looks like we will need an amendment to the Criminal Offences Act. Because you see that every time these things come up, you know, when he incites people to violence, you're not able to hold him because he hasn't threatened the person directly. But here is the case, he's directly inciting violence against somebody. So we should look at it, yes, there's free speech, but free speech doesn't mean any speech at all. Even in the US where they guard free speech so jealously. Incitement to violence, when it's so imminent that you lead to a crime, you could be held. So I think that we should be looking at, we should do some research, the Attorney General, they will compare the jurisprudence around the world and look at how we would make an amendment for incitement to violence as part of free speech, being a crime. You see, when you incite somebody to violence.
When we return, I'll share some of your views by text messages that you have sent so far. So we'll return to go to the General Legal Council. It's the legal body, regulatory body that takes care of lawyers, their conduct, and even their training as well. But it has a disciplinary authority. And matters that go there are often on the quiet and dealt with at that level. But this time, they have been blown in the public with the Chief Justice being accused and the Chief Justice referring the matter to the police for investigation and also to the disciplinary body, and he has given an indication that he may also take a civil action to that effect. But as for the media and the way we interact with the politicians, I know that you, the politicians, you enjoy critical, independent media, but you do so only when you are in opposition. The thing is that the people and their journalism here at Multimedia, they don't change. It's just your position that changes. Yeah. We'll be right back.
Yeah.